Hello, everyone, and welcome to the low. I almost said the Ladies Tale podcast, but I caught myself. It's the writer's class because we have a writer with, although I could be a Ladies Tale podcast because she's on TV. So, like, if you're on here and you're wondering why you heard it twice, that's why. I'm going to get the best bang out of my content. Yay. I'm Winona, by the way. Yes, I remember to introduce myself. High five to me. I'm getting better at this after a few years. I'm getting better. And I'm one of the anti-thought ladies. You can find out everything that we are up to at www.antithoughladies.com. You will, while you're there, you will find our books that we have written. There's And I Thought Divorce Was Bad, and I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy, If Only I Were Me, a memoir in verse, Foreign Coffee, Widow's Web, and Widow's Debt. If you're counting, that is 6 books. And no, we have more than just 6 books. I mean, what kind of writers would we be if we only had 6 books? You can find out the rest of our 13 books because, yeah, we just did number 19. I'm still not sure why, but we did it. You can find the rest of the 19 books again at www.andithoughladies.com. And as the narcissist of the group, I really do want to just keep on talking about me because I feel like, dang, the curls, the lips, the cuteness, the non-magazine in the back to show my own narcissism. These things need to be discussed, but we have a guest. So, wonderful guest, you're not here to hear about me. You're here to hear about our wonderful guest. Wonderful guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
I certainly would. I'm Linda Maria Frank, and I am the author of the Annie Tillery Mystery Series and the Buccaneer books. I tell a really good story. It was part of my persona as a teacher. I'm devoted to the idea that the young people I write for need to know about science and history, and I incorporate them into my mystery as sort of romance stories. According to my reviewers, while keeping those pages turning. As a teacher and storyteller, I believe in our youth. I believe they deserve the best we can give them knowledge, dreams, and a sense of adventure. So read my stories, they're really great.
I
Here's
noticed that.
one. Here's one. This is what
Yeah.
I'm featuring. This is the Mystery of the Lost Avenger, and it takes place in 2 times. The Avenger is a real airplane manufactured here on Long Island by Grumman Aircraft, flown by the Women's Air Service pilots in World War II called the Wasps to the West Coast, where they were put on aircraft carriers to fight the war. This is the plane that George Bush Sr. crashed in, okay, but he survived because he became president. Either that or it was his, I don't know who he was. So anyway, in the book, the plane, one of these Avenger planes on its way to the West Coast crashes, but it isn't found until the present day. So NCIS has to come in and investigate because it's a Navy plane. They find a note that belongs to my main character, Annie Tillery, belongs to her great grandmother. So they have to get in touch with the family. Annie finds out, and of course, she has to solve the mystery of why this plane crashed. So it takes place in 2 times. I go back to 1943 and come back to the present. There's a ghost, a romance, love letters, codes. It's really a cool story. Mm.
I feel like you do better than Nancy Drew right now. Because
Oh,
no, like
absolutely.
I know on your website,
Nancy,
you're like the new Nancy Drew, and I was like,
yeah. Well,
love
Nancy
that.
Drew made me a lifetime reader. I didn't like to read until I read my first Nancy Drew. So she made me a reader and a writer. So there you go.
Mm.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yes, so many people were learned how to be a good reader because they were enthralling books. They weren't just the books you had to read for school, and then you pick them up and you're like, oh yeah, this is fun. This is a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I am the narcissist, so I'm gonna talk about myself real quick right here. Just a quick thing. So and for my people, you already know. I just for you, like so like the thing that got me into really writing and really, really into reading was a Mickey Spillane novel.
Well, there you go. I mean, so you write mysteries as well?
I do. I write noir. Yes, I do. Noir
Oh,
mysteries.
yeah. Scary. Okay. No, I
I,
try to make mine are really for young readers. I have two audiences. I have young readers and I have old ladies like me who love a mystery that's short because you don't write, 350 pages for young readers. Because the first thing they do when they pick up my book at a fair is they go like this. How many pages are there? You did that in school when you had to do a book report. All right, which one of these books has the least number of pages, right? So
exactly.
So that's the story. But my background is science, so I put a lot of science. I taught forensic science, so I put that in the books, and I like to incorporate history. So sounds boring, but it's not.
No, the way that you had said about Annie Tillery having to figure out Annery, it's Annie Tillery. I don't know why I
Annie,
just put Annie Tillery. I put an R right in there. Just boom. Annie Tillery.
Arnie is her brother.
Maybe
Only
I was thinking of Ernie.
I don't
I'm
know.
sorry. Having to figure out how the plane crashed. That's a lot of science, and it's a fun way to learn science. Other than an experiment, what else is fun? Like,
Yeah. Well,
and
they
you,
also have to. She and her boyfriend have to figure out the code that they find in the love letters in the attic of the house that the great grandmother lived in. And the code is based on a Latin textbook. Aha.
okay, so when did you become the expert in Latin on top of science and
Well, I
history?
went to Catholic school, 3 years of Latin.
Ah, yes, yes. You got to know what they're saying.
So in honor, in honor of those nuns, I put the Latin in the book.
Nice. And so, did you learn anything about code breaking while you were doing this?
Yes, yeah, I do a lot of research for my books, and the research for this book was great. The way I got into this book was we have a museum here on Long Island. It's called the Cradle of Aviation because that's what Long Island is. And I was there one day with my son, and my son and his family were off doing something. And I come across this plane, this huge plane, but there's a plaque in front of it. And the plaque is all about the women who built the plane, the Rosie the Riveters, and the Wasps. And so I read this thing, and that was one of the days where they let you climb into the plane. So of course I climbed into the plane, which is no mean feat at my age, I want you to know. And I'm sitting there, I can't even see over the dashboard. Okay, and there's like three dials. I mean, have you seen the dashboard of a modern jet? Yeah, okay, there's three dials on this thing. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, these ladies flew these planes. And the plane, you think it's little, it's huge. And I'm thinking, I've got to write this story. So then when I did the research, they haven't digitized all of their files yet. So I had to go into the old Mitchell Field hangars and go into the file cabinets. And I actually got to open up the blueprints for the plane. I mean, it was like I was possessed the whole time I was doing research. So
It was like you were Indiana Jones for a literary reason.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was great fun to do this book. All my books were fun. The one before that, it takes place in Turkey, so I had to go to Turkey. Oh, that was terrible.
Oh, the hardships,
Yes, it was terrible. Yeah.
the food, all the
So
delicious food you had to eat,
oh, it was awful.
beautiful landscapes you must see. So,
Yeah,
where did
yeah.
you go in Turkey? What cities?
Oh, Istanbul, and which is really a fabulous city, and then Izmir and Ankara. I believe we went to Ankara. We mostly in the boonies. We went to a place called Cappadocia, which you see sometimes in the travelogues. They have these strange geological formations, and people take balloon rides to see them. And you always see that picture, and that's where it takes place. It takes place at an archaeological dig in this area of Turkey. So yeah, it was that was interesting too. So.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's ask the question that everyone's gonna want to know. And that is, how did you get started writing?
Okay, the
Did you
first thing,
go for a literary agent or did you self-publish and why?
okay, I self-published, and the reason why I did that was I started this game pretty late. But I'm going to give you the advice that you have to do. I don't care if you get an agent or not, because you have to do a lot of the work yourself. It's like when you go to a lawyer for a divorce, you have to do all the work yourself. And then they go to court with you. All right. So, okay, the first thing you have to do is you have to think of it as a business, as an investment. Like if you were opening a donut shop, you'd go to the bank and you'd get money, right? So you have to think in terms of how much money do you want to spend on this? Because you're going to spend money. And then the next thing that you have to do is while you're writing the book, you should get into social media and start telling people about this book you're writing. Maybe put a few little excerpts in, maybe read, make a little video, put it on Instagram. Not a whole lot because Instagram has an attention span of a gnat. So I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Okay, so then definitely do the social media thing, and especially Facebook, because Facebook's so easy, and then you'll get into the other stuff. And when your book is published, do a launch party and invite all the local people because your marketing starts on the local level first. Librarians, teachers, local newspapers, they're dying to get stories because they have to fill their pages. And there isn't always a lot of local news. So get into that as well. Um, you could do book giveaways, join Goodreads. They do book giveaways, join what is it? Or I can't think of the name of it. Well, I will eventually, but get reviews. There are some websites where you can go on and get reviews, like Readers Favorites. Readers Favorites is one of my favorites, and they have a book giveaway as well. So you keep doing all these things, and reviews are important. Once you write the book and you publish it, if you're going to publish it, you should look at the independent book publishers like iUniverse and all the rest of them. Look at them and look at the packages they have because they're not going to let you produce a piece of garbage because it reflects back on them. So you will at least get out a book that looks decent and that is put together properly. If you really know about publishing a book and you have a graphic designer, go to Kindle Direct Publishing because it's free. Okay. It all depends on your budget, how much you want to spend. I mean, all of those self-publishing companies, they have marketing programs that you can buy. I mean, they have one for $20,000 where they actually teach you how to put your book on a website that producers look at um, to find scripts for movies. $20,000 is a lot of money. So I mean, but it depends on, it depends on your budget. But basically, you have to be the marketer. And while you're doing all this, then you can look for an agent.
I love.
All agents. The thing that I noticed is that the books that I like are usually in the genre that I write. So if you look at what the author's notes and acknowledgments in the beginning, they might tell you who their agent is. Somewhere in there, they're going to tell you who their agent. All agents have a website because everything now is submitted digitally, and they'll give you the submission guidelines right on and so you don't make a mess of it. Because you could go and you can get that publisher's, whatever it is, that guide that gives you every publishing company and magazine in the world. And you're not going to have the submission guidelines right there. So what you want to do is if this agent wants it in this format, that's what you want to do. You don't want to give them something that they're going to reject out of hand. So, I mean, you could go both ways, but the trouble is if you self-publish, they're going to look to see how many books you sold. And I have to tell you that on Amazon, I don't sell a lot. Sell a lot on Audible, but not on Amazon, not paperback, but I sell them personally. I mean, I've sold over 5,000 books. So, I mean, which is a lot for a person like me. So it's not a lot for what's his name, James Patterson, who is a staff of writers, but it is for me. So that's my best advice.
I love this. Thank you so much. I was not expecting such a good practical marketing lesson. I was like, we're gonna talk about literature, but these things I love to hear about and I love to learn because it's gonna help you with your next book and your next book, and you're gonna get better at it,
Oh
and
yeah,
you're gonna have an actual career if you listen to these sorts of things. Like you'll make money with it and have a career.
yeah.
Now, I don't do sex,
So
so I'm just going
it's,
to. Oh, you said so. So continue.
there's always this argument in my head of I want to have a life other than this, and then I say get up in the morning and get on Facebook and put a post on Facebook, and and it's work. You have to commit yourself. You want to write a book. Everybody says, "Oh, I'd like to write a book about blah blah blah." You want to write a book, you have to commit. You have to commit money, you have to commit time, and you have to commit spirit.
Yes, and energy.
Well,
Woo! It takes a lot.
it
And I
does.
know all of my listeners know I've been published professionally since I was 10 years old, and it's taken a lot of time.
That's great. That's great. What are the names of your books?
We write the End I Thought series, the Misfit Guide series, the Ladies'
Are
Tale
you
series.
on Amazon?
Yes, I
All
am.
right, I'll find you.
And then I write the Widow's Debt series.
Yeah.
Yeah. None of these things are important. Let's go back to the important thing. You! Um, so you have a television show. You are a star, madam.
Yeah, I have a
How
local
did that
access
happen?
TV show. It's local access and it's called The Writer's Dream. And you get from me 26 minutes to talk about your book. And I love a talker. I much prefer to have somebody come on the show and when you ask them a question, what inspired you about your book? My dog. Or, a one-word answer, please speak. You have 26 minutes. But at any rate, it's here on Long Island we have Cablevision, and so I have a Cablevision spot on the local access span, whatever it is. I also put it on YouTube, so you can find me. You have to look at my name though. You have to look Linda Maria Frank. Don't look for the Writer's Dream; you'll never find it. And I have probably 400 videos on there. So I have a lot of, I mean, I do mostly local because the studio is out in the Hamptons. And I like to go out there because then I make a day of it, because it's very pretty out there and nice restaurants, etc. But I also do Zoom for people who can't. So I can do people like you can from all over the country. And I've done people from Boston, California, um, I don't know where else, but yeah, and I asked them the three things. I asked them, write it, publish it, market it. Tell me how you did it. And then of course I asked them best advice.
Oh. So
So
after
I learned a lot.
yes, and I think that's the most important thing about having a show. It's that people are like, "Oh, what do you enjoy about it?" And I'm like, It's nothing like I really enjoy more than listening to how other people did something." Because as my friend says, a clock, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So there's even information you can get from a broken clock. So no matter how silly or how crazy you think it is, there's something you can learn. And I
Yeah,
love that. It's so amazing. And
sure,
I love it.
sure. And it's good to have a YouTube channel. I mean, anybody can get a YouTube channel. So that's another thing that you can do is you can have that YouTube channel. You can have your friend interview you. You can read chapters from your book and just put those on. You can have somebody make a book trailer. That's the other thing. Book trailers are very nice because they're digital. You can send them all over the place. You can put them on your website. That's something I left out. You need to get a website too to put all your books on the website and make sure that whoever is doing your website knows how to connect to some place where you can buy the books. So, put a blog on your website. And right now, I'm doing something here and there. I don't spend my major time on it, but I grew up in Queens, New York. Queens is one of the five boroughs, so it's part of New York City. But we had a flower farm, and it was a flower farm in the city basically. And my grandparents started it, it was one of the called the outer boroughs, so it was kind of rural at the time. But by the time I left there at 21, when I got married, it was a city. And so what I do with this is I talk about what it was like to grow up on a flower farm in Queens, and it's kind of fun. Yeah, because
Yeah.
nobody thinks it. I actually, it took me until I was like 55 to figure out, oh, I grew up on a farm. Oh, I didn't know that. It really was a farm, so, but it was great. My parents didn't think it was great, but I did.
It's the best of both worlds. You got the city around you and a farm right there.
We
Oh,
could see the Empire State Building. There was a cemetery across the street, and if you climb the hill in the cemetery, you could see the Empire State Building.
oh, that is
So,
cool.
yeah.
Not to mention there's great food nearby.
Hmm.
Oh, New York
I'm
has great.
sorry.
There's great food nearby. New York has great food.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That's like the only thing I really like about that city. how wonderful the food is.
Well, I grew up there, so my first kiss was in the Museum of Natural History. Uh, I've walked over the Brooklyn Bridge several times. There's so much in New York City. It wears you out if you try to do it all. But if you the pace of the city is something you have to get used to because it really is wearing, is the best I
Yeah.
can say about it. But
It's so fast. It's like I live in Maryland. So
so does my son.
yeah, so it's like a nice pace for me. Like when I go too far, I'm like, okay, this is kind of real laid back. And then you go up to New York, you're like, this is just too fast. You slow down, slow, like right in the middle, just right there in the middle. Anything
Yeah.
you're too, I'm like, oh, it's just too much.
Where do
So,
you live in Maryland? Or
huh?
should I not ask that? Where do you live in Maryland?
I live in Annapolis, Maryland.
Oh, I love Annapolis. My mother is from Maryland, and my father had family there, and then that's how my father met my mother, and and then in their retirement they lived in Annapolis for a while. And my son lives in Windsor, which is, no, I'm
Okay.
sorry, Westminster, which is
Munster,
if
okay.
you come down 83, it's right below Gettysburg. So yeah,
Yeah.
big
That's
Ravens fans.
yeah, who just lost.
Oh, was that sad? Oh.
Okay, I'm gonna finish this interview so I can talk about that. Dang. Okay. So you've already given us so much advice about where what we can do and how we can get started and how we can market. But if you had to do it all over again, what three pieces of advice would you give yourself at the beginning?
I would send my manuscripts out to traditional publishers. I would start that way. I would give it a certain amount of time and then I would go to self-publishing. I went to self-publishing because it was a time when self-publishing has always existed. It was called Vanity Press, and you could just publish anything. And then self-publishing became like an industry. So I talked to a friend of mine who self-published, and I could see that it was very different. And that, I mean, they put me through the ringer with my first book of, changing things and making suggestions. And I was very happy because I paid for the editorial review and I learned so much about it. But if I do, in fact, the book that I've just finished with a friend, we're thinking about sending it out to traditional publishers. Um, don't, if you're going to do traditional publishers, don't self-publish first because they don't want to look at it. And but that's what I would do. And as I said, I came to this game late. I already had a full career teaching. I mean, I taught everything from fifth grade to graduate school. And oh yeah, and so I thought I'm too old. I still have to wait all these years. I don't know if I'll be alive then. So that's why I self-published. And here I am, like 10 years later, and I'm still here
But
shoveling snow.
your books are here and they're making an impression on young minds. They're getting more people interested in STEM. They're out there. They're doing what they're supposed to do.
Mhm.
And they're fun, which
Yeah.
is more important than anything. They're fun.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I enjoy my books. Every once in a while, I'll read one.
Oh, I don't do that anymore. I picked my book up by mistake and was reading it, and I was like, ah, I meant to put this detail. Would have been better if I had done. And I was like, you know what? You can't do this anymore.
Yeah, it's true. What I noticed though is the improvement in writing style because I was not an English major. I hated English. I really did. It was my lowest grade always, and I had to really learn. I had to take a course to learn how to write a book. I had to learn where to put the quotation marks. I mean, seriously. So yeah. So I've come a long way.
And that right there, you're like you were late in the game, but you learned so much in 10 years. Good gracious.
And
Um,
what's nice is because I'm a teacher and that's really my soul, is that I can get on that show and I can talk to people and give them advice. And in fact, I have one show that's just me talking about my books, and I go from inspiration to marketing. And I think it's informative. It's like this interview, pretty much. So
nice. Now,
yeah.
where can people find out more information about you to buy those books? and to find out all the tips that you have, also to watch your show.
Well, you can go, my website is my name, Linda Maria, not Marie, Maria Frank, .com. That's it. And it has the blog with all of the tips on writing and stuff like that. It also, I believe, has a link to, I know it has a link to my TV show or my YouTube channel. I also know that each book, if you click on the book, it'll take you to, it'll give you a summary and blah, blah, blah. And then it'll take you right to Amazon so you can buy them from there. But I also have an Amazon page. Again, Linda Maria Frank. Everything that you look for is my name. It's like the writer's dream is not the writer, it's Linda Maria Frank. So if you Google my name, you're gonna all that stuff's gonna come up. I
Thank
think.
you so much for being
Thank
here
you.
today.
Hey,
I
you
mean,
went all
the amount of information that I have received today is so enjoyable. I feel like you should write an encyclopedia next to help teach people out here how to do this from first words to marketing plan. That would be great. You can find out everything that your ladies are doing at www.andithoughladies.com. And while you're there, when you go down to the bottom of the page, you can see the charities that we proudly support. We ask that you take a little time out and support them as well. Recognize that I just said time, not money necessarily. I mean, they wouldn't mind money either. But if you could give them some time, get your hands dirty, or maybe get a little give them some knowledge on something they need to know about, they would be happy with that as well. We thank you in advance for that. Remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona and the Missing Jade. Oh, yeah. Thanks for listening.
right.